This video is going to be spoiler free, but there will be video clips playing throughout it that you might consider a spoiler, so just be warned. Hey, it's Catalystiic, or you can just call me Ina, and I've gained a couple new followers throughout the weeks as I've been posting more Dragon Age content, but besides American RPGs, I also play a lot of JRPGs. And about 2 months ago, I beat Persona 3 Reload, and I finally want to talk about it. Right now, I want to set the record for this review. I have played Persona 3 FES and Persona 3 Portable, but I didn't beat them. I put enough time on them where I think I have a good idea of them, but I'm not gonna pretend that I am like a die-hard fan of the original. So I want to review Persona 3 Reload for what it is, but at the end of the day, there will always be comparisons to the original because of the fact that it is a remake. And I'm not saying that it's invalid for you to not like Persona 3 Reload because you're a fan of the originals, and I'm sure there are good arguments for why the originals are better, but I do feel like people get way too blinded by nostalgia when reviewing remakes. I think there is always going to be a fine balance between reviewing the remake and comparing it to the original, while also keeping your nostalgia in check. At the end of the day, there will always be some sort of bias when reviewing games, so if you want to play the original, then play the original, but if you're curious about Persona 3 Reload, I hope you'll be able to listen to what I have to say about it. But anyway, besides all that, we are going to get into the review. The gameplay is a turn-based dungeon crawler mixed with a life simulation. This is a very unique system that Persona 3 has popularized and became known for, and it's also one of my favorite games to play besides the shortcomings that it has. The main shortcoming to me is that if you're the type to min-max your social links or your social stats, you'll find that towards the end of the game that it starts to get very slow, and you feel like you're just rushing through the life sim parts to get to the next cutscene or to get to the next dungeon because you've ran out of things to do. And this is an issue in all the Persona games, and it really does suck when that happens, especially when you've been playing for a long time and those ending hours become a bit of a slog to get through until you're at those final dungeons. Visually, I think the game looks great and it ran really well on my PS5, and I just want to touch upon the opinion that Persona 3 looks soulless now. I never want to call art soulless, especially if it's just the more generic anime style, especially when we actually have AI now that is truly producing soulless art. Just because Persona 3 Reload is more marketable, because of Persona 5's insane popularity, it's really not surprising that they wanted the remake of Persona 3 to look similar to it. It's much more easier to catch people's eyes when they see something that looks familiar. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. Sure, the older Persona games did have more style, and we can say that about a lot of Atlus's older titles, but I don't think it's right to discredit the art style completely now. The advertising art has been beautiful, and I think the world design looks nice and brighter. I personally don't mind when things are brighter because I'm personally extremely blind. I really don't mind the art direction they went for Persona 3 Reload. I think it looks pretty, and I love the cut-ins and the battles, and the animations look great when they are fighting. But that's just my opinion at the end of the day, and you're entitled to yours regarding aesthetics, because everyone has different tastes. Besides that, the dungeon crawling aspect of this game is very smooth and very enjoyable to an extent. It's definitely not my favorite, especially because since the dungeon, which is called Tartarus, is just a tower, it can be very dull to go through since you're literally just climbing upstairs the whole time. Persona 3 Reload has also added lots of quality of life improvements to Tartarus. You're able to level up characters that have fallen behind, which is really nice. And there's also these doors on certain levels where you can fight more mini bosses for more rare materials to craft better weapons. I also think your scout companion has more abilities than in the last game, but if I'm wrong, let me know. To me, it feels like she has a lot more than in FES and in Portable. But again, I am not positive. With all these quality of life improvements, it makes getting through Tartarus very easy, but almost too easy. If you want more of a challenge, I would highly recommend bumping up the difficulty. I played on normal and I ended up realizing that I should have played on hard, because while I don't care for gameplay, I also feel like I need a little bit of a challenge sometime, especially when the game starts to slow down for me. With all the quality of life improvements, it becomes very easy to overlevel in the game, and as a result, you can really just blast through the dungeon, which can be a pro to people and might be a con to some. During the life sim, your main goal is to bond with your companions while also leveling up your social stats, and that's pretty much it. And you just get more of the story, you get to know your town more, and the thing that sort of sucks in this game is that the main girl's confidants are locked between social stats, and you really have to grind out those social stats if you want to bond with your party members quickly, because pretty much all the girls in C's are locked behind maxed social stats, which sort of sucks because, you know, I think you want to get to like know these characters more right away. But I think the game does a good job of balancing getting to know everyone even without necessarily unlocking the social links. The life sim part of the game is where you'll get most of the story, and certain days, certain story cutscenes will occur or events will happen that move the story forward. The story of Persona 3 Reload starts with Makoto Ryuki arriving late at night in Tatsumi Port Island. He sees these strange coffins littering the ground, and he doesn't think much of it besides the fact that it's a little strange until he goes to his dorms. He arrives at the dorm, meets a strange little kid, and then signs a contract which changes his life forever. After this, Makoto Yuki, or whatever you picked his name to be, ends up getting thrust into the life of C's, which is the Specialized Extracurricular Execution Squad. It is an extracurricular club at his school with the main purpose of it being to fight shadows. Obviously, that is not what they have on paper. But throughout the game, you bond with this group of people and you meet even more people throughout the game. And you're just trying to figure out why these shadows are at Tatsumi Port Island and what is like happening. This game is like sort of a mystery, drama, thriller all at once, and I really loved the story. I think this game has my favorite theme out of the 3 that I've played so far, which is 3, 4, and 5. Persona 3 Reload really focuses on what is the purpose of our lives, and the story really resonated with me. I absolutely loved it, and I love the characters. And this cast is one of my favorites. I think they're so fun. I really enjoyed how they're not super close to each other at first and sometimes outright hostile, because the hostility seems so realistic, even though they're in such a ridiculously unrealistic situation. Most of the problems stemmed from lack of trust, which makes sense because they haven't known each other for long, or lack of confidence in oneself, which causes them to snap at each other. But it's always so satisfying when they're able to calm down and apologize and talk through their issues. There's also new moments where you can hang out with the companions outside of mainline story events, and if you hang out with them more, you can unlock more abilities throughout the game, which are quite broken, so I highly recommend you don't skip out when people ask you to hang out. Besides the gameplay perk, you also just get a lot of really nice insight to each of the characters, and it's fun to hang out with all of them. The social links outside of the main cast were also very entertaining, and I enjoyed them a lot. I have my favorites. I really enjoy the elderly couple. Yuko is very cute too. And then Bead. Bead is so funny. Is it Bead? No, it's Beeb. BB? I think it's BB. BB's so fun. And, you know, the sides characters sometimes lack a lot, but I enjoyed the ones in 3. I have to talk about the teacher, though. I'm not going to talk too much about it because I know some people get very pissy about their teacher romances, but I personally still don't like them. And I hope in the next game that they don't have a teacher romance. And as unethical as it is, I would let a professor college romance slide within a Persona game, even though it is very unethical in real life. Just because it's fiction, I would let that slide. But I just can't do it. I can't do high school teacher romances, even in fiction. It's too much for me. This one wasn't as bad as Persona 5 because it wasn't a full-on romance, but she is still really weird. And I don't like it. I'm sorry if you like it, I just don't. Besides that tangent, I want to talk about the overall story and my thoughts on it. And as I said before, I really loved it. I think it does get slow at times, just because I think that's the nature of Persona games. But the writing in Persona 3 Reload is solid, and I think the story plays out very well. And there were twists that I didn't expect and twists that I could see a mile away. And sometimes seeing the twist made things very stressful because you're like, oh man, like how is this gonna end for everyone? And man, that ending. I'm not gonna say anything else because I think you should experience this for yourself. It is a very good game, much shorter than Persona 5 Royal at least. And it's a solid experience, especially if this is an intro to Persona series, because it's also very easy, at least to me. Difficulty is subjective, so mess around with it, but I personally think that this would be very easy for new players to get into. I'm so happy I finally got to experience this game fully after quitting it all those years ago because I was heartbroken at getting spoiled. But it was worth it, you know? I'm glad I finally played it, and I'll probably go back to FES eventually because I do want to see the original and how it compares to the game now. And I also want to play Portable because I miss my girl Katone. I love her, and she deserved to be remade too. I'm probably not going to play episode Aigis at the moment, mostly because I don't feel like it's necessary, even though it's a direct continuation of the story. But if people feel differently, please let me know. I'd love to know if episode Aigis is worth it. And I do know people are mad that they're charging for it when this new remake is already $70. But I'm more willing to pay for it since I got this for free as an anniversary gift. And that's really lucky for me because if I bought this full price, I probably would just not buy episode Aigis until it was heavily discounted, or unless people really recommended it to me. But some people are saying that you don't really need to play it, so I don't know. If you feel differently, please let me know. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope editing it isn't going to be a pain. I'm not feeling too well. I'm not like sick, but I can feel my throat coming down with something. But I am drinking lots of water, taking vitamin C, but talking has been a little bit difficult. And thank you for all the support on my previous videos again. I stated it in the last one, but I feel like my numbers on my last Dragon Age video, or last 2 videos, have just been slowly climbing up, and it's still like smaller in the grand scheme of things. but to me, any growth is very appreciated, and I've been enjoying doing this. It's a very fun hobby, and I'm glad people like to listen to a little bit of my takes. Have you played any of the Persona games? Or have you played 1 and 2? I actually want to go back and play Persona 1 and 2 eventually, because I enjoy seeing the history of a developer a lot, and I'm sure those first two have something interesting about them, because there's some diehard fans out there that really enjoy them. So I want to see what the hype is about. I hope you all are doing well. Please do all the YouTube things, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!